Bonjour à tous et toutes, and welcome to our channel, Learn French. And today's class, we're going to be looking at gender and then how it affects French. And here's what we're going to be looking at. So we have masculine or feminine in French, because I think that's one of the biggest questions. So how do you know whether a noun is masculine or feminine? Then you have endings for masculine nouns. We'll look at endings for feminine nouns, and then we'll look at how we deal with anything that is a biological gender, that is people and animals, job titles, names of countries, and then at the end is an exercise where we'll look at. So the main thing about gender, so it's unlike your English, your French, they've got gender because they can either be masculine or feminine, and then there's obviously different ways of how you can identify it. First one, it's a dictionary. If you check in the dictionary, for the French nouns, they have an M for masculine or F for feminine. It's already telling you the gender. Or another one you can also use, which you'll look at, is the endings of the noun. Those common endings, they do actually indicate gender. So how gender affects everything, it determines which article you're going to use. So you have masculine le or un, feminine la or une. So we'll look at articles later, but then now your le can be your example for that. So we'll say le boy or le girl, for le garçon for the boy, la fille for the girl. So already there's already that distinction of gender there, or even un garçon for the boy, une fille for the girl. So what you can do is when you're learning a noun, it's best to learn it with the gender, because that will just help you remember what gender it is. So we can look at this photo here, where it's a bedroom, and all of the nouns, they already have the gender that's there. So you have la lampe, that is for the lamp, la serviette, that's towel, le lit, that's the bed, le tapis, that's the carpet, le sac, handbag, la valise, that's the bag, the la femme, which is the lady. So all those nouns, they have a gender, and most of them in this one, I think they're feminine. So the feminine ones are taking up a la, the masculine ones are taking up an e. So I guess when you now pose yourself the question, like, so how then do I know whether a noun is masculine, or how then do I know that it's feminine? The one of the most effective ways is just looking at the ending. The ending will tell you whether it's masculine or feminine. So the first ending that we have here, all these endings here, if you see a noun that has these endings, it's therefore masculine. And then we'll look at the examples. But then there's also what are called exceptions, where a noun can have an ending but then be of the opposite gender. So you can have on, yes, le baron, le patron, they're masculine because of the ending, but then there's exceptions now, where la boisson, la façon, la liaison, la maison, la raison, la rançon, la saison, la chanson. All those ones, they're feminine, even though they've got that ending, they are feminine. Those are what we call exceptions. So now just running through the endings, we have le maître, le résumé, le prêt. Then we have EUR, les vendeurs, that's the vendor, le danseur, that's the dancer. IEN, we have le musicien, the musician, le chien, that is the dog. IER, le boucher, l'ouvrière. Then we have TEUR, le traducteur, that's the translator. Then we have âge, le garage, le sauvetage. And look at the number of those exceptions there. We have la cage, l'image, la nage, la page, la plage, la rage. All those exceptions, they are feminine even though they have the ending age. So now if we're moving on, still with those masculine, the endings for the masculine nouns, we have AL example, le journal, le cheval, then EAU, le bateau, le château. And then we have exceptions here for the ones that end in EAU. We have l'eau, la peau, that is water, and skin. So if you learn it as la peau for skinning, like, okay, this one, it's feminine because it's part of the exceptions. Then you have ENT, le second, le présent, and then we have la jument, pardon. That's the exception that we have there. But then all of these ones, they don't have exceptions. So we'll go through them. We have ET, le billet, le projet, Then ASME, le fantasme, l'enthousiasme, le tourisme, le charisme. So here with on l'enthusiasm, if you notice there's already a lesion that's going on there because you have two vowels that are clashing. Then you go to the ones that end in IN. Le cousin, le baldaquin, and then OIR, l'arsoir, le fumoir, and then AIL, le travail. And then cardinal points, all of them, they are masculine. We have le nord, le sud, l'est, l'ouest. All of those ones, masculine. And then days of the week again, masculine. Le lundi, le jeudi, le dimanche. Le lundi, le mardi, le mercredi, le jeudi, le vendredi, le samedi, le dimanche. All of them there, masculine. Same applies to months. Février, avril, october, and so on. They're masculine. Then seasons again, masculine. So you have l'été, le printemps, l'automne, l'hiver. Most of them. Even though most of them, you can tell that there's a legion going on, they are masculine. And then trees again, masculine. Le sapin, le peuplier, le chêne. And then languages, le français, l'allemand, l'anglais, le shona, le ndebele, le tonga. All of them, they are regarded as masculine and they therefore take up the masculine article. And then now we go on to the endings of the French feminine nouns. So you look at these ones, right? Then I'll go to the next one, this one. When you look at the endings now of the feminine nouns, what you notice is that most of them they end in an E. Let me show you. We have S, Us, En, Er, On, and then you go on. The same actrice, danse, most of them they actually end in an E. So that's one thing that I find that's useful. If you're not able to memorize all of them, it's just knowing that most now, not all of them, most nouns that end in an E, they are feminine. And that will help you. You get away with it a lot of the times. But then what the most effective way is to learn to go through the list of the endings so that you know in case of those exceptions there. So you have la maîtresse, la vendeuse, la danseuse, la musicienne, la chienne. Because if you go back to the masculine ones, there are a couple of them that actually end in an E. But then these are for feminine ones. Most of them, it's just E. La musicienne, la chienne, la bouchère, l'ouvrière, then O-double-N-E, la baronne, la patronne. And then you go la traductrice, the translator, la pommade, la façade. We go back, exceptions again, le stade, that's the stadium, masculine. And then l'ambulance, l'essence, les silences, it's exception. Then you have E with an accent, E accent aigu, and then E. L'arrivée, the arrival, l'idée, the idea, those are feminine. You're looking at the exceptions now. We have le musée, the museum, le lycée, the high school, le trophée, the trophy, l'apogée, la mausolée. Then you go to L, la demoiselle, the missus, probably. And then you have E, double T, E, la poussette, la cigarette. Then you have IE, la géologie, la librairie, l'incendie. Then you have INE, la cuisine, la cabine. And then you have ISE, la surprise, la devise. Then you have AILLE, la trouvaille. Then you have T and then la pitié, la confidentialité. Then now when you're looking at the exceptions, you have le comité, le côté, l'été, la pâte. And then URE, la confiture, la couturière, la murmure. Le murmure, that should be your exception. And then you have continents as well. They're all regarded to as feminine. L'Europe, l'Asie, l'Afrique. And then your academic disciplines again, they are regarded as feminine. La médecine, la philosophie, la chimie. I don't know what went to deciding to say these nouns are feminine and the other ones are masculine. I think it was more for phonetic rules, but I'm not sure what made them decide. All I know is that these are the ones that are regarded as masculine and those are the ones that are regarded as feminine. So when it comes to people, animals, or whatever, anything that is a biological gender, it takes up that gender. So if it's le garçon, which is the boy, it's masculine. If it's la fille, which is the girl, it's feminine. Same applies to animals. We have le coq, which is the rooster. We have la poule, which is the hen. That one is feminine, that one is masculine. So anything that is a biological gender takes up that gender. Now, so certain animal, they've got a fixed gender, and then that it's then used to refer to both males and females. But then to now specify, since there's one fixed gender for the word, for the noun, that's when people add mâle for male and then femelle for female before or after the noun. Example, we can have la souris mâle, le souris mâle, then la femelle du crocodile. That is the female of a crocodile. But there's now nouns that have one form for both. So you can have un touriste, un touriste. The article is the one that you then have to use to determine whether it's masculine or feminine. And then we have job titles. For examples, we have un journaliste, un librairie, une librairie, un interprète, une interprète, un ministre, une ministre. The distinction is masculine, feminine. Those are for the job titles. So they already have an E at the end, so we don't need to add any E to make it feminine. And then there are also, same as these job titles that only have the feminine one, we also have some that only have the masculine one. So ingénieur, the ending for me, if you're using that way, it doesn't end in an E, so therefore it's masculine. So now the distinction is un ingénieur, un professeur, un professeur, un chirurgien, surgeon, un chirurgien, un médecin, un médecin. And then, so what's now happening with professions that now they're trying to come up with feminine nouns instead of just referring to it as un, but then actually coming up with a feminine noun. That's not the ones that are already there. So now majority of professions that were previously only associated with men now have their own feminine form. But for those ending in E, EUR, it's not yet that common. So we have un magistrat. Now we have un magistrat, un écrivain, un écrivain, un auteur, une auteure. You can tell is now feminine. And then I can also add un acteur, une actrice, and so on. So, but certain professions that only exist in the masculine forms, but then describe both men and women. Un plombier, un mécanicien, referring to both men and women. And then likewise, some professions, they only have the feminine form. So you have une sage-femme, une hôtesse de l'air, that's a steward, une femme de ménage. And moving on, some job titles, they only exist in the masculine because the meaning then changes when they're used in the feminine form. Example is le médecin, meaning a doctor, but the moment we say la médecine, it's not referring to medicine. Same as le jardinier, a gardener, but then if we say la jardinière, it's now referring to something else, which is a window box. Le livre can be the book. La livre now is the pound. So it's not just a matter of trying to convert it, to force it to the feminine, because the feminine might have a different meaning. And so enough now about job titles. When we come to countries and regions, we have all countries, so not all, but most, starting with an E, they are feminine. So you have la France, l'Allemagne, la Chine, la Bretagne, la Provence. And the reason why I say most, that is, and then, so before we go to the exceptions, like all, but then it's most, ending with an E are feminine. And then the ones that don't end with that end with a different vowel or consonant, they're therefore masculine. So you then have le Canada, le Peru, le Maroc, le Japon, le Portugal. So you ask yourself, where do we find ourselves as symbols? Okay, is we find ourselves It's the ones that end in an E but are masculine. We have it's like five of them: le Mexique, le Mozambique, le Belge, le Zimbabwe, le Belize. Even though it ends with an E, it's masculine. So now, for a recap, you have your gender. Your gender affects the article you're going to use, and you, as we go, you realize it affects more than just the article. It affects the adjectives. Because in French, one of the biggest things is agreement. Like whatever it is, it has to be an agreement in terms of gender and number. So this one, we were looking at gender. And how then you know which gender it is? You look at the ending of the noun. It will tell you which gender it is. So you have your endings E, you are being your endings for your masculine nouns and then your endings for your feminine nouns. And then remember, like I said, most of the nouns that end with an E, they are feminine. Of course, there's some exceptions, but then most of them they end with that will end with an E, they're feminine. And then now your special cases, like your peoples, they use the gender that they have. The job titles might actually have both feminine and masculine. And then some do maintain the feminine and masculine. And then now for your countries, you know that most of the countries that end with an E, they are feminine, except le Mexique, le Mozambique, le Belge, le Zimbabwe, le Belize. Those are the ones that are still regarded to as feminine. So that's all about gender. We will be looking at articles. Au revoir à tous. Merci à tous et au revoir.